I want to welcome everybody to the Legislative Committee meeting for the April 2021 Councilors meeting on April the 12th. To open up this meeting, I would like to inform everybody that it is the duty of committee members to avoid conflicts of interest and appearance of conflicts of interest in performing the duties as a member of the Legislative Committee and the North Carolina State Bar. Any member of the committee who is aware of any personal conflicts or appearances thereof with respect to the matters before this committee should disclose those at the meeting. At this point in time, is there anybody wishing to affirm that they have a conflict in any matter that's coming before the Legislative Committee today? Seeing none, we have the agenda that is before you. We have the January the 2021 minutes. If everybody has had a chance to review them, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes from January 2021.
So moved.
Mr. Allen, we have a first. Do we have a second?
Michelle Frazier, second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion at this time? Hearing none. Is there if everybody would approve these minutes?
We're gonna,
saying
we'll
aye.
do the launch here on the poll to vote yes or no.
Anybody that votes opposed, say nay.
All right.
Ayes have it.
Unanimous.
Okay, now moving on to the report of the committee chair. There's really not a whole lot going on right now based upon the shenanigans going on in Raleigh. However, we do have some good legislation that's come up. I'm going to turn it over to Peter to update us in regards to the COVID-19 legislation and the other legislation. Peter, if you'll take it over.
Sure. So there's been just some matters to update you on since the January meeting. There's been additional legislation related to some of the provisions that were passed and related to COVID, particularly as it relates to us. The provision that allows for remote notaries and remote oaths to be taken. That provision was set to expire, and there was legislation passed to extend that provision for through later into the year. That includes the ability for new lawyers to take their oaths with a judge remotely instead of having to be in court to do those remote swearing-ins. In terms of other legislation that's not COVID related, once again, there is a bill that will place significant restrictions on debt settlement companies that last year the State Bar supported, especially as it relates to language clarifying how that lawyers cannot be participating with these debt settlement companies as a paid employee or a paid representative of an out-of-state debt settlement company. And so the exception is clear for North Carolina licensed lawyers who are not engaged in those types of services to still be able to provide debt negotiations for their clients. We once again similarly support this legislation, as that language is exactly the same as it was in the prior session's bill. That debt settlement bill did it is moving along. It passed out of the House and is now in the Senate, and we'll see how that moves into the Senate. There's significant opposition to the bill from the debt settlement companies, as you might expect. Last year they opposed the bill, and while it looked like it was moving and going to pass, they came with a strong opposition and stopped the bill from passing through the Senate. So we'll be watching that again this session. Those are the matters that I don't have anywhere else in our presentation. I did provide a list of bills that were, and I'll share the screen just to show you here. A list of bills that have the keyword for attorneys. If do you guys see this screen here? Nothing terribly shocking to note. There's a administrative office of the courts bill that has language allowing for remote hearings and more permanently instead of just as it related to COVID. There's once again this S corp bill that would allow a single member S corp to appear what is considered pro se on behalf of the S corp in matters in the courts. That bill did pass the Senate. It has gone to the House and has not moved there. And we're keeping an eye on it to see if it moves, if there's anything that we would have to do about it. But I don't anticipate that becoming an issue here in this session, but we'll be keeping our eyes on it. Other than that, there's various bills filed. The one that we'll spend the most time on today is the bill that we had filed regarding our membership fees, but I'm happy to answer any questions about any of these bills that you might have, and if I don't have the answer, I will hunt it down for you and give you an idea on where the bill might be headed.
At this time, are there any questions for Peter about any one of these bills other than the SB 417, which is the bill in regards to the dues?
Peter, I would just add that hopefully that permanent remote notary bill and witness bill will be dropped in the next week or so. We think we're pretty close on that with all the stakeholders.
Yeah, so there's the House and Senate leadership have been in the judiciary and have been working to create a bill that the stuff that we've had to get extended in the COVID legislation that allows for remote notaries, they're trying to make that provision permanent. And so we'll keep an eye on that when it gets filed.
Any other questions for Peter? Okay. Moving into the number 4 is the 2021 update on legislative committee priorities. We have been tasked with wanting to have regular communication with legislators, and Peter has done a great job in regards to getting some cards with some language already pre-printed on it to get it out to the bar counselors so that we can get it back to the legislators. As you may have remembered in the January meeting, is that some of the concerns that we had was, and I'm calling myself out on this, nobody else. So 1 out of all the counselors have bad handwriting. And it's very difficult to read what the message was to our legislators, as opposed to the hieroglyphics that I write. So that we thought if we had some pre-printed cards, that would help out a lot. So Peter, do you have any update on that?
So I admit to just realizing that these pre-printed cards have been sitting on my desk now for a couple of weeks. I thought that they were just the blank cards, and then I just opened up the plastic wrapping around them and realized that the printing is done. So I think this actually works out well now that our bill has been filed. The timing here, we're going to get these cards to you. We'll mail them out ASAP with the ability to sign and then potentially leave a message, urging support of Senate Bill 417. So I'll work on some language and some suggestions for you to potentially add a little note into these cards, but we'll get these mailed to you to fill out, and you can send them back to me and we'll get them delivered. We'll be doing that. Hopefully we'll get them mailed this week and get them to you this week to start signing and filling out.
And when everybody gets those, it's very important to pass the word on to the other counselors, is that they want to try and get the budget passed as quickly as possible. 2 years ago, it never did pass, or last year it never passed. And so that the idea is they're going to try and get out, by July, if not August. That is always a promise, and that's always a hope. That's not always a reality. So the quicker we can turn this around, the better it is for us to be able to get some push on Senate Bill 417. And then we have the resolution trying to get the judicial and prosecutorial districts mismatch corrected.
So I had a conversation with the AOC this past week about this. There hasn't been any movement on this front yet. We're still I think other priorities for AOC have taken a front seat, which is understandable. We're going to explore ways and possible solutions to see if we can't solve that this session, but there has been really no progress on it yet, other than kind of a broad desire, stated desire by everybody to try to find the solution, but we haven't. Nothing is in the works in terms of being drafted or filed, and so we're going to have to kick that into gear to see if we can't find a solution, or if we're going to be stuck with this mismatch again for a little while.
And then finally, the Senate Bill 417, that's the state bar dues bill.
Yeah, so this is the most important bill to talk about today. Is a couple of weeks ago, or I guess 2 weeks ago, we had filed a new bill that would set the allowable state bar membership fees, and that is in your materials that I'll put up on the screen for you here. This is a little bit reworked from our last version in that we lay out what the maximum dues could be annually. This would not raise the cap for 2022, but would begin in 2023, allow an additional $25 to be charged for annual membership fees, so a total of $325. It also would raise the late fee to $50, which is currently $30. $30 is one of the lowest late fees in the country for a mandatory bar membership. So this would increase the late fee. It also would codify in statute the exemption for a member in active duty service in the military from payment of dues. Right, that is, we waive the active duty military members' dues now, but that's only in our administrative rules. This would codify that in statute. It also cleans up some language on timing as when late payments or the lawyers who have failed to pay, when that is reported to the council and when those are reported to the superior courts of their various districts, gives some more flexibility on when that can be done. So if we were to move earlier in the process, instead of having to wait until October to report these late payments, potentially to start the show cause and suspension process a little bit earlier if that is something that we so desire to do in the future. So we think it is a better bill. The last bill had a lot of confusion because it said the maximum would be $400. The amount is $400, and then it said, but we can't raise it by more than $25 every 2 years. But when people saw the bill, they saw that $400 number instead of this idea that it couldn't be raised other than every 2 years. This makes it a little bit more clear on what the numbers would be going forward. And beginning in 2029 and after, we'd have to go back to the legislature if we were to seek any sort of legislative increase on our cap. This bill was filed by Senator Britt with Senator Galey as a co-primary sponsor. She's a new legislator. She's a lawyer from Guilford and Alamance County. It also was co-sponsored by Senator Blue, the Senate Minority Leader. There's support for this bill. It's going to face the same battle that the last bill had, which was getting out of the Rules Committee and to the Judiciary Committee to be heard. I do think if it gets to Judiciary, it will have enough support to move forward. And we've also had discussions with members in the House that if we could get it to the House, that they believe that they'd be able to get it moved through the House. So we have a little more optimism than maybe we had going into the session, but we're still facing the uphill battle of getting this move to be heard in committee. And that's going to be what we're spending our huge bulk of our time on the next few weeks, is to try to get this bill referred to Judiciary so it can get heard.
Any questions for Peter based upon these two bills or these bills that we're trying to accomplish?
And Judge Bell asked a good question. The language in here does not mean that this is what the dues amounts would be. this language only gives the state bar the authority to charge these amounts. So the council still has the authority to determine what dues will be on any given year up to this legislative cap. It may be that in 2023, we do not feel that we have a need to raise the dues to 325, especially if we can continue realizing some savings from some of these remote meetings and things like that. But it does give us that flexibility if we feel that it's necessary to increase those dues.
Any other questions, Peter, in the chat?
That was it from the chat. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Peter outside the chat? One of the things that we'll do is try and get some talking points. So a quick phone call and also get you a list of the members of the judiciary that would help try and get this sped along. I'm certain that some of you have run across them so that maybe we can get some traction this year and get this thing passed, because it's very important for us to get that done, especially going forward.
And I do have a set of talking points and some data that I will send out to the committee to look at. And then if we need to tweak it for some talking points that are for counselors to use, we'll create those and get those out to you guys as well.
Okay. Any new business that needs to come before this committee? I don't see any. Do we have a motion to adjourn? We
So
don't.
moved.
Jerry has made the motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, if you'll answer yes on the polling question that Peter will pop up. Sadly, that was 100%. Thank you all very much for attending the legislative committee. And I hope to see you in July in person, so that we can all enjoy each other's company safely and be careful. Take care, everybody.